So whatever data dump they gave me had completely changed my mind. As a human soul, I was now a different soul than before I went in there. And then it was like this, and it shot up about 500 feet in the air and came to a dead stop. And again, I pleaded, please come back. Don't leave me. It was like my words were falling on deaf ears. And then as the craft was like this, a huge ball of fire, actual fire, came out from the belly of it like this and was radiating. And it was the size of the bottom of this craft. And it was just, you could hear the snap and the pop of the fire in this thing. An electrical charge, a very powerful hearing. You could hear it. And I was like, oh no, I mean, I don't want to get burned up, but what's going on? And that was concerning. But then I had this amazing peace, and I thought, no, I'm not going to get burned up. And the next thing I know, off that fast, gone. They headed towards the Gulf of Mexico, and they went so fast, it was like 1 second they were there, and with the blink of an eye, they were gone. And nowhere in sight, they went that fast. So I stood there in the road, just shocked and going, what just happened? You know, how could that have just happened? And I thought to myself, oh my God, I need to talk to somebody. I've got to talk to somebody that knows me, that loves me, that can trust what I'm telling them. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? And then I thought, I'll go to my mom's. Now, I happen to live right off of 28th Street North, and I was more south than my mother, who lived off of 28th Street North, about a minute north of me. So I got in my little car, it started right back up, and I headed right over to my mother's. And so I got to the door at my mom's, and I'm banging on the door. You know, it's the middle of the night. It's like, you know, I'm thinking it's like 2:45, and I'm banging on the door, and my stepfather came to the door and said, Teri, what are you doing here at this hour of the morning? I said, morning, it's the middle of the night. I said, well, he's so tired, he doesn't know what time it is. And so I heard my mom come around the corner, and she goes, Marty, who is it? And he goes, it's Teri. And she says, well, let her in. And so I go in, and I ran up to my mom. I said, Mom, please put a pot of coffee on. I got to talk to you. I said, I can't believe what just happened to me. I just have to tell somebody. And she said, okay, but I got to get ready for work in a little bit. And I'm like, what? You're going to work at 2 in the morning? You know, I'm still thinking it's like 2:30, 2:45. And my mom goes, Teri, it's 4 something. I think she said it was like 4:17 in the morning. I'm like, what? How? And I thought, oh, no, they don't understand. It's not 4:17. They think it is. And I'm like, what? How could that be? I had never heard the term missing time. I didn't know it existed. And all I could think of was, what's wrong with everybody in this freaking world? You know, nobody makes any sense. And I just thought it was them, you know. And so.
But it got stranger.
It kept getting stranger. Every year it got stranger and stranger. And then as I sat there telling my mother, you know, everything I told you plus more, because at the time I was like motor mouth. I couldn't stop talking to her. I was just high in the moment of that experience. And she listened very quietly as she did brew the coffee and pour a cup, and came over and sat down next to me again. And she put her hand on my knee and said, it's okay, Teri. I've seen them too.
Wow.
And I'm like 27 years old, and I got angry. I screamed at her, what? I'm 27 years old, and you have never told me this before? You've never made me privy to this? And all my life I've been talking to you about things, and you're ignoring me like I'm some kind of a fruitcake? And, you know, I'm yelling at her. And she just said, well, she said, it's best that you don't talk about these things. And I was on a layover from a job I was working with Honeywell Aerospace. I was working as in the secretarial realm, and my mother was in management at Honeywell Aerospace, and my sister worked at Honeywell Aerospace in a different plant, Plant 5, and I worked in Plant 4. And so they had laid us off because we were working on the Minuteman project, and they were getting ready to work on the Gemini project. And so my mother said to me, if you ever want to be hired again, you keep your mouth shut. You don't talk to anybody. You say nothing, because they're going to think you're crazy. And even though I have seen them too, she said, you don't want to talk about this. And I said, okay, all right. And so I didn't, I really was like this ultra good kid as a kid. And if I'd do something, I did it. I didn't question her. I did what I was told. Never got in trouble, was, never a problem. And so I didn't talk about it. And of course, many things kept happening over the years. And I would go back to that site often and just sit there late at night and just think, what the heck, what's going on here? And, that was that particular segment. But then I had other experiences along the way. But that was my first extraterrestrial awareness time, where I now knew this is real, regardless of what anybody says. And I did tell my pastor, and he poo-pooed me. And then I knew something was wrong with religion, because I was starting to see a much bigger picture going, wait, you're supposed to listen to things that concern me or upset me, and you're not listening. So something's wrong with this whole religious thing. And so then I started backing away and seeing things much bigger than what I ever thought I could. So then I was on a completely different path, but still trying to make sense of it all. And it took many years, many.
Yeah. Well, I picked up on two things. When you were having that first experience, you were saying that you didn't want them to leave you there. So two things. Did you think you had some kind of connection with them? And secondly, what was the dump that you talked about? Did they download information to you?
Well, before that night, I knew nothing, zero about extraterrestrials. And so after that night, I was a firm believer. I knew what I knew. When people said they don't exist, I said, oh, but they do. And when people would say, well, they don't look like this, I would say, oh, but they do. And they're here, and they're cloaked, and they can be here. I had so much information just coming out of me. I wasn't even sure where it was coming from. Then I like I told you, I never did anything for all those years until one night. And then of course they came again and led me to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, and literally led me to them. I wasn't looking for MUFON. I didn't even know it existed. And so, I have been led by these extraterrestrials my entire life, by the spiritual realm. I've had a lot of different things, but back to your question. So I knew I had been given information, but I didn't know how. This thing had no mouth, no nose, no ears, nothing like a human man, but it was yet kind, non-threatening way. And it did give me some form of a data dump, but I didn't know to what degree that data dump was. And I still, to this day, get a little bit of understanding from that first interaction. Did I lose you, Dean?
No, I'm back. Well, we're back again, but I just wanted to ask, being led to MUFON by the extraterrestrials, do you think that kind of would be defeating their purpose if they were looking at staying, unseen and not being discovered?
So the reason I was led to MUFON, I believe, and I did state that earlier, is that they're not trying to not be known. They're just not getting involved. They want to be known. They want people to understand who they are and where they're coming from and what they're doing. And yet they're not involved enough in our personal lives to try to control us or manipulate us or tell us what to do. That's not their concern. So I'm very much believing that they're wanting us to understand them. They're not trying to do anything for us specifically. They're giving us technology. A lot of different things are happening, but it isn't that they need to control us. They're so far above us. It's such a higher thing. It's such a higher calling than what we look at it as.
Mm-hmm.